Hey. Hello. How are you, Sister Branch? I'm good. How are you? We're going to get started in 1 minute because I got to get to church. All right, it's 5:03, so I'm going to get started. So, oh, hey, cousin. So, this week's topic is called But You're in a Glass House. And if you were at Blue Springs Church of Christ yesterday, I was like, oh, Holy Spirit, that's what I was talking about. Because he actually talked about some of the topics that I was going to speak about. Hey. And so one of the topics, we're going to get into it because I got to go to church. So, living in glass houses, and my homeboy is David. I love me some David. I think because David was so real, and I see me and David. Like, I see myself as a person that I struggle in this thing called life. I do love the Lord. I try to get it right, but it seems like the more I try to get it right, it's always something going on wrong. So it was interesting because when I thought about some things that happened to me over the weekend in Detroit, and I learned a lot about myself. I see some growth. I'm loving on me. But it's not me, it's all God. But you should see your growth as you continue to connect with Christ, as you continue to grow and read the Bible and study. And I'm doing these series because I want us to see that God can use a imperfect being such as me, and he still can do great things if we allow him to be the master of our lives, if we allow him to write, it was there for a family reunion. So I was only there for a minute. And so, if we allow him to write our story, whatever it is, if it's our love story, whatever it is, our parenting story, whatever, God has a plan for everything. If we just allow him to write the plan and stop taking the pen from him. Because I often like, oh, okay, this is where he must want me to go. And I'll start writing the plan. And then I'm like, that couldn't have been it. Because how did I get here? It's because I'm trying to do it Monique's way. So David is the king. So this is being taken from 2 Samuel. So David is the king. And we know he's the son of Jesse. And you guys got to read these stories. So 2 Samuel. So we're in chapter 11. So what happens in chapter 11, David sees Bathsheba. She's up on the roof taking a bath. Now, she minded her own business. And when David sees her, he immediately is like, I want her. But she's married. She's a married woman. That don't stop him. He the king. He like, whatever I want, I'm going to have. Whoever I want, I'm going to have. So he sends a message to her for her to come to be with him. They become intimate and she gets pregnant. But how do you explain this pregnancy? And her husband is off at war. So he's one of the head men in the war. So David's like, okay, how we gonna do this? So he thinks, I'm going to have my men go get him, call him and come and get him drunk, have a feast. But he's such an honorable man, even though he did all those things, and wasn't an issue with him doing it, but he eats with them, does his thing with the king. However, David tries to get him to go and sleep with Bathsheba because he's trying to cover up the fact that he done got this man's wife pregnant. But he's like, no, I can't sleep with, go and be with my wife. My men are out here on the battlefield. So he's a man of great integrity. So David's like, dang, okay, didn't work this time. So he sends for him again, tries to do it again. Same thing. I can't go in here and sleep with my wife, or even sleep in my house. My men are out here. How can I do that? How can I be this leader? So David's like, oh, dang, I can't trap him. So I got to kill him. So he puts him on the front line and he's killed. So after the mourning period, Bathsheba mourns her husband, and then she is taken as one of the queens for David. So she becomes one of his wives. And so now we're still in 2 Samuel, but now we're in chapter 12. So now the prophet Nathan comes to David and he says to him, I got a question for you. And so he explains this situation to him and says, there's a poor man that only has one lamb. And it's a rich man that has hundreds, and he takes the poor man's one lamb. What should we do? What should be done? David's irate. He was like, how dare him? Kill him. He should be killed. And Nathan says, you are him. David's blown back like, oh, man. You took this. You the king. You can have anybody you want. But you take this one man's wife and you kill him. So now you done created a whole situation. It went from you trying to cover up sin, and that's what happens with us. We try to cover up sin, and it become more issues later on. And it's like, dang, David. Then I think, Monique, you done tried to cover up some stuff. You done did this, and then you done had to lie about this and create this situation, and then you look up and you in a whole mess. So David ends up the consequence, because God don't play. God is if you truly are one of his children, you are going to be chastised when you do things that are wrong. And so David's now falling all out because the consequences, the child that Bathsheba's carrying has to die. So he's weighing in the water, he crying, he won't eat. He's just all the way just jacked up because he's like, God, please, 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 please. And, God doesn't honor his request. The child has to die. The child does die. And so he sees his men over there talking, and the men, they're whispering because they're scared to tell, because they're like, this man falling all out, God sleeping in sackcloth. He took his clothes off. He in sackcloth. I mean, like, he just really going through it. If you're doing all this, then what is he gonna do if we tell him that the child has passed? So he sees them whispering. He says, is the boy dead? And they're like, yes. He gets up, he takes a shower, he gets his life together, and he eats. And they're like, what are you doing? Why would you do all this when the boy was still living? And David said, when the child was still living, there was hope. There was an opportunity for God to have mercy on my situation. But now that this has occurred, I accept God's will, and I'm about to go on with my life. And that's exactly what he did. He went on. And I was like, man. But he was living in that glass house. He thought, and just because the world didn't see what was going on with his house, sorry, y'all know that's my work computer. When the world the world couldn't see what all was going on. The world didn't know that Bathsheba was pregnant. Because it didn't take away the consequence that occurred. And so when the consequence occurred, David accepted it. And I believe that's why God always said that David was a man after his own heart. Because some of us, when we do the bad, we get mad at God, and then we walk away from God. Like, but you did it. You created the situation. This is just the consequences of your actions. So the next one, glass houses, was Tamar. And a lot of people don't really hear too much about Tamar. But Tamar was the daughter-in-law of Judah. And she was married to two of his sons. So one son died. She got the next son. He died. And then there was, Judah had one more son. And so he told her, look, go back to your people. So now I'm in, this is in Genesis 38. So go back to your father's house, live as a widow. And when my son is old enough to marry you, I will come back and get you, and you can marry the son. But Judah was like, this woman, and two of my sons done died with this girl. I'm good. I'm not going to lose my third child. So she good. She with her people. They'll take care of her. Live life. So one day he comes to her city, and she hears that he's coming to the city. So she dresses up as a prostitute, and her father-in-law sees her. He goes in. He sleeps with her. Bam, she gets pregnant with twins. And they go back and they tell her father-in-law, Judah, your daughter-in-law is pregnant. He's outraged. What you mean she pregnant? Now the third son is now grown. So she's actually could get him. He could be her husband, but he had already made the decision that wasn't going to happen. So then they end up, he has her come, and she says, listen. So let me back up. When they sleep together, he didn't have any money for her. She said, well, let me have your ring and your staff. And so he says, okay. So then when he's ready to have, because she was going to be killed, when she speaks to him and she says, listen, wait. The man who I'm pregnant by, he does try to pay her, but she wasn't a prostitute. So they could never find her again. So he said, listen, I tried to find her. I can't find her to pay her the money. She, whatever. Because he doesn't know who this woman is that he slept with. So then now she got to face the judge. So she says, wait a minute. The man I'm pregnant by, do you recognize this ring and this staff? It's mine. So now I'm in a glass house again. Here I am about to crucify you. But I did worse. And he says, you're more righteous than I. So did this to just say we have to be very, very, very careful when somebody's experience isn't quite like ours, yet we got so much mouth to say about it. Yeah, you might not have had a baby out of wedlock like me, but you not married and you got birth control. And it ain't for medical reasons. We just gotta be careful, because there's no sin greater than another. There's only one unforgivable sin, and that's blasphemy. We make a whole lot of things unforgivable sins in the world, but sin is sin, and we got to make sure that when we're judging, that when you go to pick up that stone, that it can't fall on your own foot, that it can't crack your own foundation of your own house. You may have a situation where maybe your life is perfect, but then your child's life is a little on the raggedy side, your grandchild's life. So we got to be careful, so careful, because I remember being little and I remember pointing at my sister one day, and my mother was like, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. So I started pointing like this, like, but she did this. Because I didn't want any fingers pointed back at me. But the reality is, somebody else could have a little speck in their eye and we got a plank in ours. And so we just have to be very, very, very careful that when we are judging people, and I'm not saying judging somebody because you're trying to get them back on the right path, but that malicious, that belittling, where there are some people who will never step foot in another church because they've been so church hurt by their past. And that the reality is we all are an ex something. We just are. Maybe your ex isn't as bold as mine, but I'm so grateful that as bold as my exes have been in my life, they are nailed to the cross and I bear them no more. And I don't, that was once a chapter in my life. It's not my story. It's not my book. It's not even the title of my book. I am so grateful for grace and mercy and renewed grace and mercies that come daily. So that's it, y'all. This is going to be quick and easy. We just got to be real careful about how we put our mouths on people. Make sure that the Bible tells us to speak the truth in love. Make sure you got more love on you than anything else. Make sure you even got the facts. What are you? My sister around here, she put a post out. I have to say this. She put a whole post because some people were talking about her daughter, like, she pregnant again? They ain't know she married. She got a whole husband. But she not asking you for a loaf of bread to feed either of her children. But because you don't know the facts, you done created a whole situation. But she good. Her life is good. God is pleased with her. She's multiplying her family with her husband and doing well. And we got to just be very careful that when we put our mouths on people, that we are not doing it in a manner that will cause somebody to stumble, because it did me. I was all the way in the Nation of Islam. I was like, I'm done with these Christians over here. I'm about to be in this nation. I'm about to have these little babies and assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. I was done. But then I'm so happy that God kept me, because it was church hurt. It was a judgment. But I had to understand that people are people and people are just people. And I had to ask God to allow me to use me and not become bitter in the using me. And so that's where it is, y'all. Just before you quick to judge, see if you quick to help. Be just that quick to help. Judge the situation like, oh, this sister needs some help, but be even more quick to offer some help. Not just gossip about the help. Not just, well, did you know? Do you know how to help? So that's it, y'all. I love y'all. Thank you so much. This is quick and easy. If you're in the Huntsville area, I would love for you guys to join me at Blue Springs Church of Christ. We are having a series. Today is actually the last day for our homecoming. We are 101 years old. Out here trying to spread the gospel. I love you guys, each of you, and I hope to See you guys next Wednesday, Lord's will. All right, bye. Oh, thank y'all. My internet saying it's slow, so it won't let me stop. There.